The first flakes fell silently, almost timidly, like whispers from the sky. But within minutes the gentle snowstorm turned into a raging white fury, blurring the edges of the dense forest and covering every branch, every rock in icy white. Somewhere in that swirling chaos, a tiny bear cub wandered just a few steps away from its mother, unaware of the danger closing in. How could a small cub survive in such a merciless storm? And what would a mother bear do when her most precious little one disappears? The answers are terrifying and heart-stopping. The cub's survival depended on instinct, but the mother's determination would redefine the meaning of courage. The wind whipped through the trees, carrying a bitter chill that seeped through fur and bone. Shadows shifted unnaturally between the trunks, hints of predators watching, waiting for any sign of weakness. The cub shivered, pawing blindly through the snow, every step heavier than the last. Meanwhile, the mother sniffed the freezing air, her heart pounding as panic rose like a storm inside her chest. She scanned the swirling white, ears twitching at every snapping twig, every rustle of distant movement. She could not afford to hesitate, not even for a second. Snow piled quickly on the ground, erasing footprints almost as soon as they appeared. The cub's small cries were swallowed by the wind, faint and fleeting. Yet the mother, attuned to every sound, every change in the cold forest, caught the faintest whimper and followed it without pause. Branches snapped under the weight of ice, and the cold gnawed at exposed skin as if testing the mother's resolve. Would she falter under the storm's fury? No. Each step she took was deliberate, driven by a force older than fear, older than reason, a mother's love. Time stretched endlessly, the storm showing no mercy. As the cub stumbled near a frozen creek, its small body trembling from the biting wind. If she didn't act fast, the cub could freeze, lost in the endless white of the blizzard. Every second counted. Through the blinding snow, she finally glimpsed a small movement near a cluster of rocks, a flicker of brown against the unyielding white. Relief surged, but she remained cautious. The cub was alive, but the journey back would be just as perilous as the storm that separated them. As soon as the mother bear realized her cub had vanished, panic surged through her like a wildfire. She spun in circles, nostrils flaring, ears straining for any sound over the howling wind. Every instinct screamed that her little one was in danger, alone in the merciless snowstorm that consumed the forest. Her paws sank into the deepening snow as she began to track tiny footprints, barely visible beneath the fresh layers of ice. Each mark was a fragile thread, connecting her to the cub, guiding her through the white chaos. Her heart pounded, but she pushed the cold and exhaustion aside. The wind clawed at her fur, ice stinging her eyes, yet she pressed on. She sniffed every gust, turning her head from side to side, scanning for the faintest sign of movement. The forest was a blur of white, every tree a shadow, every snowdrift a potential trap. Hours seemed to stretch in frozen silence, the storm relentless and unforgiving. Her muscles ached, her breath came in ragged clouds, but the thought of the cub kept her moving. She had faced predators before, but this was a battle of endurance against nature itself. She paused briefly, sniffing the air with all the intensity of a mother determined. There, beneath a fallen branch partially buried in snow, she caught a scent, the faintest hint of the cub's fur mingled with the icy wind. Hope surged, and she moved with renewed determination. Branches snapped under the weight of ice as she climbed over obstacles, each step a test of willpower. Her paws slipped in hidden patches of ice, but she never faltered. Every instinct, every cell in her body, focused entirely on finding her cub before the storm could claim him. Her eyes scanned the horizon through the blizzard, seeking even the tiniest flicker of brown. She imagined the cub shivering, scared and alone. The thought fueled her urgency, pushing her past pain and fatigue, moving like a shadow through the endless white wilderness. Finally, a distant sound reached her, a faint, desperate whimper carried weakly on the wind. She froze, listening intently, and then bounded toward it with careful speed. Each stride brought her closer, every second a battle against the storm, every heartbeat a promise that she would not fail her cub. The cub stumbled through the snow, tiny paws sinking with every step. The cold gnawed at his fur, seeping into his bones, and his stomach ached with hunger. Every breath came out as a fragile puff, barely visible through the swirling storm, and the forest felt impossibly vast and empty. Branches snapped under hidden snow, startling the cub at every turn. A fallen log blocked his path, slippery with ice, and he struggled to climb over it. His little claws scraped the wood, but exhaustion weighed heavily, making each movement a monumental effort. A thin layer of ice covered a rushing creek ahead. He froze at the sight, unsure if his trembling legs could carry him across. The water rushed angrily beneath, icy and unforgiving. Hunger and fear mingled with desperation, urging him to move, but caution held him back. The wind roared in sudden gusts, pushing him sideways, throwing him off balance. Snow stung his eyes, and he tried to shield his face with his tiny paws. Every sound was magnified, distant, snapping twigs, hidden rustling making him flinch, fearing predators were closer than they actually were. A pair of small foxes watched him from the edge of a thicket, their eyes curious but hungry. The cub froze, knowing instinctively that he was vulnerable. They circled briefly before vanishing, leaving the cub trembling, alone, and painfully aware of how fragile his situation had. Shivering, he pressed on, following faint scents and muffled sounds, each step sinking deeper into the snow. His energy waned, and his legs felt like lead. Hunger gnawed at him with every move, but the thought of his mother somewhere out there pushed him forward. Fallen branches and hidden roots tripped him repeatedly, each stumble a test of willpower. He fell into a shallow ditch, scraping his side against frozen earth, and the sting made him whimper. Fear and pain intertwined, but he forced himself to get up, pawing blindly through the endless white. Suddenly, over the howl of the wind, he heard a familiar rumble, soft but distinct. His ears perked, heart pounding with hope and relief. It was the sound of his mother, moving with purpose, scanning, calling, and he scrambled toward it with every ounce of strength he could muster. Through the swirling white chaos, the mother bear caught a flicker of movement, a tiny shadow against the endless snow. Her heart leapt as adrenaline surged, pushing her through the storm's fierce resistance. Every gust threatened to throw her off balance, but nothing could stop her from reaching her cub. She climbed over frozen logs and skirted ice-covered rocks, each step a careful negotiation with the treacherous terrain. The wind howled, stinging her eyes, making every glance a struggle, but she followed the faint, desperate cries that carried over the storm. The cub teetered at the edge of a hidden ravine, snow collapsing under his small weight. Fear gripped him as he scrambled to steady himself, trembling from cold and exhaustion. One false step could send him sliding into icy depths, and the mother's urgency intensified. Branches whipped against her face as she approached, each one a barrier, each one testing her determination. She pressed on, ignoring the cuts and bruises forming across her fur, driven solely by the sight of her tiny, fragile cub fighting for survival. Snow blinded her partially, making the world a white blur, but she could feel his scent, faint but alive, mingling with the cold wind. Her paws sank into drifts, her muscles burning, yet every instinct sharpened, guiding her closer to him with terrifying precision. The cub's eyes widened as he heard her low growl nearby, a sound that promised safety and protection. He took tentative steps toward it, shivering violently, his body almost numb with cold, his small frame barely keeping balance on the icy ground. With one final desperate leap, she reached him, wrapping her massive paws around his trembling body. The cub pressed against her, warmth spreading through his frozen limbs, tears mixing with snowflakes on his fur. Relief flooded both, but the storm still raged around them. She held him close, shielding him with her body, rocking gently to restore his strength. The wind howled, but for a moment the world was reduced to this bond, unbreakable and fierce. In the heart of the storm, mother and cub were reunited, a testament to love and instinct that no blizzard could sever. The mother bear moved steadily through the storm, her cub nestled tightly against her chest. Each step was deliberate, every sense alert to hidden dangers beneath the thick snow. The forest, though still furious, seemed less threatening now that they were together. The cub's tiny body trembled less with every step, warmth spreading from the mother's strong embrace. He sniffled, eyes wide, trusting her completely, relying on instincts older than himself to lead them safely through the blizzard's wrath. Ice-covered branches scraped against them, and snowdrifts threatened to trap them, yet the mother pushed forward with unwavering determination. Her focus never wavered, her love forming a shield against the merciless elements that tried to slow their journey. The wind roared in sudden bursts, testing their balance and resolve. The cub clung tightly, paws gripping her fur, as if to hold on to life itself. Every breath was a small victory, each heartbeat a promise that safety was near. They crossed a frozen stream carefully, the ice cracking beneath the cub's tiny steps. The mother lowered herself, letting him climb over her back, protecting him from the cold and slippery danger. His trust was absolute, their bond unshakable. After what felt like endless moments, the storm began to soften. Snowflakes drifted slower, wind less aggressive, and the forest's harshness eased. The mother bear paused, letting the cub rest, nuzzling him to reinforce warmth and courage before continuing. As they approached a sheltered hollow, safe from wind and predators, the cub curled against her, finally allowing exhaustion to take over. The mother wrapped him fully, guarding and comforting, her eyes scanning the quiet forest, ensuring the path back was free from threat. In that moment, standing together in the calm after the storm, the cub learned the strength of trust and love, and the mother's courage proved the power of perseverance. Nature tested them, but together they survived. Life's storms are inevitable, but with determination and care, even the smallest can overcome the harshest challenges. If you were moved by the courage and love of this mother bear and her cub, don't forget to join our adventure family by subscribing to the channel. There are many more heartwarming animal stories waiting for you.